Sammy was visiting her grandmother during Halloween. When her grandmother went to get groceries for their Halloween dinner, Sammy started hearing strange noises from the attic. He got curious and wanted to find out what was making them, so he climbed there. He noticed that a big wooden box was glowing. He went to open it, but it was locked. Luckily, his grandmother was a bit forgetful, so she left some clues around the room. Can you help Sammy figure out the digit passcode? Take a look at these books stacked next to the box. Did you notice that these 4 books have numbers instead of titles on their covers? Those must be the numbers he needs to open the box. So the passcode is 4203. After Sammy opened the box, he started hearing the whispers again. They were coming from the strange book that was in the box. The book was saying, "Open me, but to do that you need to answer the riddle on my cover. In the sun, I dance and play, but in the dark, I fade away. I'm not alive, yet always near. What am I? Can you tell me, dear?" The answer is a shadow. As soon as Sammy opened the book, it magically teleported him to a dark forest. He started panicking and running around frantically. That's when he spotted an owl sitting on a branch. The owl said, "Lost friend, I can help you find your way out of this labyrinth of trees, but first, you have to hear my riddle. I'm not alive, but I can reflect your fear. Look into me, and I'll always be near. What am I must be crystal clear." Do you know the answer? It's a mirror. The owl guided Sammy to a wizard's cottage. Then, Sammy explained his situation to the wizard and convinced him to help. There was only one spell that could send Sammy back to his world, and it was in a magic book that was stolen from an evil witch. So, the book was not revealing its secrets to the wizard. There was a riddle at the back of the spell book, and it said, "Speak what belongs to you but is used more by the others, and I shall reveal my secrets." Do you know what that is? It's your name. The Monster Hunters Agency was suspicious that a witch had crossed into our world from the supernatural realm. After following the magic trail the witch left behind, they got suspicious of 3 people. So they placed hidden cameras in their rooms and started observing them sleeping to figure out who the witch was. Can you help them? Okay, each of these people has something in their rooms that indicates they might be a witch. But take a look at the broom inside the First Lady's bed. But first of all, it's made of plastic. And it also has a label on it, which means it was bought from the store. The Third Lady is wearing a glowing amulet. I admit it looks mysterious, but it's just a toy. So the witch is the lady with the pointed hat peeking out from underneath her pillow. And if that doesn't convince you, her black cat sleeping on the other side of the bed will. Amy's town had an old museum that the residents believed to be haunted. Amy and her friends decided to spend the Halloween night inside the museum to have some spooky fun. When the clock struck midnight, all the portraits hanging on the museum walls came to life. Then a portrait of a lady started screaming for some help. She told Amy that the former employees dared to make a fake version of her portrait, and she wanted Amy to destroy it. But once Amy saw the fake portrait, she spotted 3 differences from the original and assured the lady that it couldn't hold a candle to the original. Can you spot them too? The pendant on the lady's neck, her lipstick color, and the ribbon on her hair are different from the original painting. The spooky traveling circus company was going to visit Evelyn's town to put on a Halloween show, and she really wanted to go. But they were only offering a few tickets to the people who could answer their riddle correctly.
With fur as dark as the midnight sky, it's often seen as an omen, oh my! In superstitions it takes its place, a witch's companion with mystery and grace.
Can you tell what this is? The answer is a black cat. The circus company required all the audience members to come to the show dressed in costumes. So Evelyn headed to the shopping mall to get herself a costume. She found 3 options to choose from: a witch costume, a mermaid costume, and a Victorian-era vampire costume. Which one should she pick? Take a look at the back of the witch costume. It says it's made out of paper, so it'll not be a good idea to wear that. And the mermaid costume is all teared up at the back. So she should choose the Victorian-era vampire costume. It may look bloody, but it sure fits the theme. It was finally Halloween, aka the day of the show. Evelyn headed to the circus tent to wait in line to enter the venue. But 3 strange things among the people caught her eye. Can you spot what they are? Look at this guy waiting in the line. His feet are not touching the ground. He's floating. Evelyn also saw her friend Edward waiting in line. As they started waiting together, she learned that Edward's ticket was from the first row, and they wouldn't be sitting next to each other. When the circus manager overheard them talking, he suggested that he might be able to change Evelyn's seat. Then he brought 3 chests, put the new ticket into one, and told Evelyn to follow it. If she was able to tell which chest the ticket was in by the end, he would give it to her. So, watch the manager move the chests and help Evelyn win the ticket. The ticket is in this one. Before the show started, Evelyn and Edward went to the cafeteria to grab some snacks. Take a look at these 3 options. Which one should they get? Take a look at the date that's written on the potato chips package. According to it, the chips expired in 1980, so that's a pass. And take a look at the small note below the ice cream. It says it's earwax flavored. Nobody wants to taste that, so they should pick the popcorn. The gooey thing on top of it is just caramel sauce. The show finally began. The first performer was a magician, and his first trick, he teleported from the right side of the stage to the left side. But Evelyn saw right through his illusion and figured out how he did it immediately. Can you? Look behind this curtain. There is a portable projection machine. It sure has something to do with that. As the spooky show continued, Evelyn realized that something was off with some of the performers on the stage. She started suspecting that some of the circus members might not be human after all. Can you tell what made her think so? Take a look at the singer first. She has gills at the sides of her neck. Secondly, did you notice the yellow, long, sharp nails of the juggler? And lastly, the rope walker has a tail at the back. Once the show was finally over, the circus manager came to the stage and said,
Ladies and gentlemen, we've been lying to you. You see, we're actually creatures of the underworld, and we came here to steal your souls. All the exits in our tent are magically sealed, so you can't escape. Only those who know our riddle correctly will be freed. I have a mouth, but I can't speak. I run, but I can't walk. What am I?
Can you help everyone escape? The answer is a river.
That's it for today. So hey, if you pacified your curiosity, then give the video a like and share it with your friends. Or if you want more, just click on these videos and stay on the bright side.
Today, I'm going to put your attentiveness to the test. Pay attention to every little detail, and you'll solve all the riddles in no time. Mark was walking along the river when he heard someone screaming. It was a young woman who was drowning. The guy immediately left his jacket and backpack on the ground and jumped into the water. Luckily, he was on time. When Mark pulled the woman out of the river, he saw a passerby standing next to his stuff.
Unfortunately, I can't swim, but I looked after your things,
the man said. Then why did you rummage in my backpack? Mark asked. How did he understand someone had opened his backpack? When he dropped the bag on the ground, the zipper was on the left side, but now it's on the right side. It was a scorching hot day when Thomas made a bet with his friends. At that time, they were chilling in the garden, drinking water and lemonade. Thomas told his friends that water produced by different companies tasted different too. You can blindfold me. I'll take a sip from 2 bottles of water, the one we have on the table and the one from a different producer. I saw it in the kitchen. I bet I'll be able to tell the difference. Then he did exactly that. His friends were ready to give Thomas the money he had won. But one of them cut in. You were cheating, he said. Why did he think so? It was an extremely hot day. No wonder the water had been outside for several hours, which was much warmer than the water brought from the kitchen. Someone robbed a bank in a large city. A police detective went to visit the main suspect, who had been detained several times before.
I've been feeling unwell this week, and I haven't left my apartment for 3 days. Luckily, I didn't need food. My fridge is full. You can make sure of it yourself,
the man said and opened his fridge. But the detective realized the man was lying and arrested him. How did he figure it out? First of all, that loaf of bread on the table looks fresh. Plus, if the man had been staying inside for 3 days already, his fridge wouldn't be so full. Mr. Black sold beautiful, rare vases. There were dozens of them on the shelves of his store. One day, the man called the police. When they arrived, the owner had his head bandaged and his store was a mess. Some guys in masks ran into my store and grabbed the money and the most expensive vases. Then they hit me on the head and I blacked out. Police officers immediately understood that Mr. Black was lying to get the insurance money. How did they figure it out? Even though most of the vases are on the floor, they aren't even cracked. But if the vases had fallen down from the shelves during the robbery, they would have been shattered. Look at these 2 bloggers. As you see, they both seem to be very popular. They also have the same amount of likes, but there's something wrong with one of them. She must be hiding something. What is it? The girl on the right has a fake bag. The logo on it looks like that of Chanel, but it's written Gucci underneath. Marcel was driving along a dangerous mountain road. Suddenly, he saw a man sitting on the side of the road and stopped. It turned out the man hadn't managed to control his car. It fell off the road and the man got thrown out of the window. And now, his very expensive car was beyond repair.
Could you be my witness when I prepare the documents for my insurance company?
The man asked Marcel. The guy agreed, but asked the man to show him what was inside the car. The man took the key out of his pocket and unlocked the damaged vehicle. "I won't take part in this fraud," Marcel said. Why did he think the man was lying? If the man had been thrown out of the car, the key would still be in the ignition. Dylan and Susan had been happily married for 10 years. One day, Dylan went on a business trip. When he returned, Susan immediately understood that the man wasn't her husband. How did she figure it out? Dylan always wore his wedding ring. If you were attentive, you must have noticed it on his finger. But the man who returned to Susan didn't have the wedding ring. The police found out that a smuggler was going to leave the country through the largest airport in the city. A detective arrived there and detained 3 people who looked suspicious. Look at them and try to figure out who the smuggler is. It's the third passenger. His suitcase is full of totally random stuff. Women's shoes, some random socks, a pair of old dirty jeans, and even a wig. Plus, when closed, the suitcase looks much larger than when it's open. Sarah's husband, Michel, was a professional cyclist. He was about to have a challenging cycling tournament. "I promise I'll bring you the bouquet they give to the winner," Michel told Sarah. 4 hours later, he came back with beautiful flowers. But Sarah realized right away that Michel hadn't won the tournament. How did she figure it out? Those flowers are actually from Sarah's garden. The same flowers are growing next to their house. Look at these people. The man is in the hospital. He's lost his memory. And these 2 women both claim to be his partner. One of them is obviously lying, but which one? The woman on the left is lying. If they were married, they would have wedding rings on their fingers. Now, there are these 3 people. One of them is lying. Who is it? Look at this woman claiming that she's pregnant. See that Adam's apple? It's a man. He can't be pregnant. Look at these people. Can you figure out who's a vampire? It's this man. See those fangs? Creepy. Which of these girls is the man's wife? It's the girl on the right. She's wearing a necklace saying Kate, and the man has a tattoo with the same name on his arm. A store security guard stopped a man who was leaving a clothing store. "The sales assistant claims you've stolen a pair of expensive gloves."
These are my gloves. I've had them for ages.
But the security guard immediately understood the man was lying. How? The man wouldn't be able to use these gloves. They're both for the same hand. Rachel reached the final of a game show. In the last round, she could win a gold bar, but only if she managed to get it. One of the bars was in a container with boiling hot water. The jar containing the second bar was filled with strong acid. And in the third jar, there were venomous scorpions. Which container should Rachel choose? The woman just needs to wait until the water in the first jar cools down and take the gold bar. Detective Adams came to a park to have lunch in the sun, but his attention was drawn by 3 men running around a fountain. Each of them was shouting, "Thief! Catch the thief!" The detective was confused. Who was the real thief? That's why he just kept watching. After some time, the distance between the men shortened. Detective Adams immediately realized who the real thief was. Can you figure it out too? If the third man was the thief, the second one would only have to turn around to catch him. The same goes for the second man, which means the man running the first is the criminal. If it rains at midnight, can you expect that in 72 hours it will be sunny? No way! In 72 hours, it's gonna be night again. Can you crack this rebus puzzle? That's right, it means accelerate.
That's it for today. So hey, if you pacified your curiosity, then give the video a like and share it with your friends. Or if you want more, just click on these videos and stay on the bright side. Hey, I've got a couple of riddles for you today, but those are hard, so start your brain engine and let's go. There was once a magical forest inhabited by elves and gnomes. Since they didn't get along very well, they lived in 2 different parts of the forest to avoid all conflict. One day, centaurs invaded the forest and elves and gnomes were forced out, running in different directions. Let's follow a small group of 6 creatures, 3 elves and 3 gnomes. They ran west, but unfortunately, they stumbled across a lake. None of them could swim, but luckily, there was a raft. The raft could only carry 2 creatures at once, 2 elves, 2 gnomes, or 1 elf and 1 gnome. So you need to figure out a way for all of them to cross the lake safely. Now, here's the problem. If there are more gnomes on one side than elves, they will attack them. Even if an elf is on the raft, but not in the part of the lake where there are more gnomes than elves, it's still not safe. Can you figure out a way for them all to cross the lake safely? Okay, so here are 5 possible first steps. 1 elf crosses the lake, or 1 gnome, or 2 elves, 2 gnomes, or 1 elf and 1 gnome. But it doesn't make any sense to cross the lake alone, since they need to send the raft back somehow. So those 2 options are out. 2 elves can't cross the lake together because then the 3rd elf will be left alone with 3 gnomes and they will attack him. So it's either 2 gnomes crossing the lake first or an elf and a gnome. So let's go with the 2 gnomes. So 2 of them cross the lake and of course 1 of them has to come back. Now what? 2 elves can't leave together because the 3rd one is in danger. If an elf and a gnome leave together, then the one who is leaving will be in danger as soon as they cross the river. So 2 more gnomes leave together, and then 1 comes back. An elf and a gnome can't leave together because then there will be 3 gnomes and 1 elf on the other side. So this time, 2 elves cross the lake together. Who comes back? Not an elf, because the other one can't be left alone there. A gnome can't go back alone. Otherwise, there will be 2 gnomes and 1 elf on the first shore. So, a plot twist. An elf and a gnome come back together. Now, 2 gnomes can't cross the lake. An elf and a gnome can't go either. So, the 2 remaining elves go to the other shore together. None of them can now return since there are 2 gnomes left on that shore. So, a gnome will return to pick up one of his buddies. Then another gnome will go to pick up the last gnome. But it's not the only solution. You could also succeed by sending a gnome and an elf together as a first move. Here's a graph of how it would play out. But remember, no matter how far you travel, there's no place like gnome. Okay, great job! Now it's time for the second riddle, and this one comes from Esme. This girl often goes for a walk in a forest and typically gets lost. This time, though, she doesn't get lost. Here's her way home, but she's tempted to go visit her old friend, a witch, who lives in that forest. Esme has an amazing riddle, and it's pretty hard, so she thinks she has a good chance of winning the witch's cat. So, Esme goes to the witch's house and offers the following. I bet you can't solve my riddle. If I'm right, your cat will go home with me. The witch believes she can solve any riddle, so she takes that risk. Esme puts a big acute triangle on the table. Here, you can make 7 cuts to make this triangle disappear. Every piece you cut off that is an acute triangle will disappear. But if a triangle has an angle that is right or obtuse, that piece will stay. Once again, 7 cuts, and you have to make the whole triangle disappear. Not a single smallest piece can be left. So, how can the witch do that and keep her cat? Whenever you make a cut, it'll either produce 2 right angles or an acute and obtuse angle. The witch seems to be doomed, but then she looks at the pizza she hasn't finished. When you cut into more than 4 pieces, all angles are acute. The problem is that a pizza is round, and we're dealing with a triangle. Still, the trick also works with other shapes, like hexagons and pentagons. Good for the witch, she can make a pentagon out of this acute triangle by making just 2 cuts. The small cut-off triangles are acute, and they disappear. Now, the witch needs to deal with the pentagon like she does with a pizza. Cut it into 5 pieces using the last 5 cuts. That's a success story. Hey, we know you like the cat, Esme, but maybe get one of your own. Okay, do you think you can crack another one? I promise it's the last one for today, and it's quite fun. No more geometry. Here's how the story goes. 1,000 years ago, 6 siblings founded a magical school. Ingram, Regalia, and Corona are witches, and Agnard, Ardumo, and Modnar are wizards. A pair of siblings found a house each, and the names of those houses are Rymeth, Madlo, and Damora. All 6 of them also founded the 4th house, named after their 7th sibling who went missing when they were young. You are invited to study in the magical school, but as you arrive, you have to be sorted into your house. You have to put your hand on the sorting book and wait for its decision to light up on the cover. When you do it, the book sees potential in you. So instead of sorting you into one of the 3 houses right away, it gives you an opportunity to get into the 4th house, where the most gifted young magicians go. To prove that you're good enough to be sorted into that house, you have to solve the sorting riddle. The task is to guess the name of the special house, which no one but its students knows. But you have some guidelines that can serve as hints. First, you have to find out who founded which house. Here are some statements. Every house was founded by a brother and a sister. Corona and Regula found Rymeth and Madlo, but not necessarily in this order. Ingram and Ardumo founded Madlo and Damora, but not necessarily in this order. Agnard and Regala founded the same house. Now, after you figure it out, the next step is to guess the name of the secret house. To find it out, find what all siblings have in common. So, are you gifted enough to get sorted into that special house? First, you have to find out who founded which house. So, the pair is always a brother and sister. Let's look at conditions 2 and 3. Each of them mention Madlo. Both Corona and Regala are sisters, which means that no matter who founded Madlo, it already has a sister founder. Therefore, Ingram, who is also a witch, couldn't have founded this house, which means that Madlo was founded by Ardumo, so Ingram founded Damora. Agnard founded the same house with Regala, so it was Modnor who founded Damora with Ingram. Therefore, it only leaves us with Rymeth for Agnar and Regala. Finally, Corona founded Madlo. Okay, great. Now we have to figure out the name of the 5th house. What did the siblings have in common? Of course, all of them have the letter R in their names. Let's put them in the order of appearance of the letter in their names, starting with Regala. Under each of their names, let's put the name of the house they found it. Now, the respective letters under each R form the name Radota. That's the name of their missing sister, and that's what the fourth house is called. So, pal, if you figured it out, congratulations, and welcome home. That's it for today. So hey, if you pacified your curiosity, then give the video a like and share it with your friends. Or if you want more, just click on these videos and stay on the bright side.
Detective Smith was called to a house to investigate a burglary. Mr. Brooke claimed that someone had broken into his place and stolen his expensive watch. When the detective arrived, he saw that the front door was open and there was muddy footprints leading to the living room. He also noticed that there was some mud on the staircase. After looking around the house, Detective Smith quickly figured out who the thief was. He went upstairs and arrested Mr. Brooks' son. Why did he do that? The detective noticed that no footprints were leading out of the house, indicating that the thief was still inside. 4 friends went out for lunch. Take a look at the image and try to guess which person is the richest. It's the one on the right. The first person has a fake iPhone, so they can't be it. Then the one next to them has ripped shoes, which means she can't afford new ones. The third friend has an empty wallet. She's probably going to ask some friend to pay her part of the bill. And the fourth one has multiple black credit cards, which means they're the richest. Freddy went to the castle near his house to return a lost cat. He was greeted by an old man that invited him in. But once he stepped inside, the old man turned into an evil magician that trapped Freddy inside the castle. Then, the evil magician said,
If you manage to complete 3 tasks I give you, I'll let you go home. Otherwise, you'll be stuck here forever. Here's the first task. Help me find my glasses amongst all these vegetables.
Can you help Freddy? Here they are, right next to the pumpkin. For the next task, Freddy had to make a potion, and the ingredients should be added in the right order. The magician gave Freddy a piece of paper with the recipe written on it. Can you help Freddy make the potion? You got to follow the colors of the cauldrons. So first of all, you need to add curry, so the potion will turn yellow. Then you add some blueberries, and it will turn green. And finally, add some tomatoes to make the potion look brown. Well done, Freddy! Freddy's third task is to find a book in this messy room. Can you do it? It's sitting right here behind the floor lamp. Congrats, you just helped to free Freddy. Tuesday, Sam and Peter went to a restaurant for dinner. After eating, the bill was paid. But Sam and Peter did not pay the bill. Who paid the bill for them? Their friend, Tuesday. I didn't see that one coming. Atlas woke up in the attic of an abandoned house. He tried to find a way out of the house, but all he could do was find a room with 3 doors. Each door hid a different danger. The windows and floor behind the first door were made entirely of magnifying glass, which meant that the sunlight would probably burn him if he entered. The second door hid a room full of poisonous gases. And behind the third door, there was a hungry lion. What should Atlas do to escape? he should wait until it's nighttime and use the first door. Sydney told her mom that her gymnastics team would go to a sports camp for the weekend. She asked her mom to help her pack for the trip. Her mother packed everything she thought her daughter would need. When Sydney came back from the weekend, she was telling her mother all about the trip. But somewhere during the conversation, she asked her mother why she hadn't packed a toothbrush. The mother immediately knew Sydney was lying about where they had really been that weekend. How? Because Sydney's mother did pack a toothbrush, but she put it under Sydney's gymnastics clothes. If Sydney had really gone to that camp, she would have used the clothes and found the toothbrush. Kimberly discovered 3 bags in an old attic along with a note. The note said that there was $1 million inside one of the bags. It also said that the 2 other bags were empty. She only had one chance to figure out which bag had the cash. Kim knew that only one of the messages written on the bags was true. On the first bag, it said, "The cash is not here." On the second bag, it was written, "The cash is not here." The last bag read, "The cash is in the second bag." If you were Kimberly, which bag would you choose? You should choose the first bag. If only one of the clues is true, then the money is in the first bag. Becca had just arrived from a 2-week trip to Egypt. During her trip, she bought a beautiful emerald and wanted to show it to some of her friends. She decided to throw a party just for her closest friends. The next day, she noticed that the emerald was gone. Becca immediately decided to call a detective to help her find the thief. She showed him some of the pictures she had taken the night before. The detective took a quick look and already had a pretty good idea of who had done it. Take a look at these pictures. How did the detective find the culprit? Look at that girl wearing a hat. At 1 a.m., her hat is flat, but at 2 a.m., her hat suddenly turned pointy, weirdly imitating the shape of an emerald. It must have been her. It's a rainy evening, and Dylan is driving back home. He passes through a bus stop where 3 people ask him for a ride. Dylan only has 1 seat in his car to offer, but he really wants to help all of those people. There's an old lady that looks very cold. There's a doctor who claims he needs to get to the hospital for a quick appointment. And a woman that Dylan has a crush on. What's the best arrangement Dylan can make to help everyone? Dylan could lend his car to the doctor so that he could drive the old lady home. Dylan could wait at the bus stop with the girl he has a crush on until the doctor comes back and gives him his car back. Susan found out that her favorite pop band was playing a private concert for VIP clients in a luxurious club. She decided to sneak inside the club through the backyard. But unfortunately, Susan faced a strict guard behind the door. He refused to let her inside without a password. But luckily for her, there was a hint in the guard's t-shirt. The hint was 2, infinity, plus BD. Susan deciphered the hint and was allowed in the concert. Can you guess what the password was? It was to infinity and beyond. One afternoon, Nicole found her father, Frank, in the living room, really worried about an anonymous text he had gotten. Frank was a private investigator, and he had just received a message revealing the address of the town's most dangerous criminal, Dirty Jack. He decided to go check the area, even if he didn't know what the criminal looked like. The address turned out to be an old warehouse, and when he busted inside, he found 4 people sitting at a table playing poker. The 4 people were a carpenter, a truck driver, a mechanic, and a fireman. Without any hesitation or communication, Frank arrested the fireman. How did he know that he was a criminal? The fireman was the only male in the room. The rest of the poker players were women. Bobby and Rachel decided to go grab a cup of coffee. But when their orders arrived, Bobby's coffee came with a fly inside of it. He called the waiter and asked him to change his cup. The waiter brought another cup of coffee, but 2 seconds later, Bobby called the waiter again and said, "Hey, that's the same cup." How did he know? Because Bobby had already put sugar in his coffee, and when he tasted the liquid inside the new cup, it already had sugar inside.
That's it for today. So hey, if you pacified your curiosity, then give the video a like and share it with your friends. Or if you want more, just click on these videos and stay on the bright side.
Imagine that you're on a game show and here's your last task. There are 3 doors in front of you. Behind one of them there is a car. Behind the other 2 there are ghosts. You pick a door to open. Let's say the first door. The host of the show, who knows behind which door the car is, opens another door. Let's say it's door 3. Behind it there is a goat. After that, the game host tells you, now your final choice. Do you want to switch your choice of doors? Do you think it would be in your interest to change your choice and pick door 2 instead? I'll give you some time to think, and you make your decision. Have you made your choice? This problem is called a Monty Hall problem. There is named after the host of a game show where this situation happened. And here what PhDs and mathematicians say. Switching the door doesn't make any sense. When you picked it first, the chances of picking the door with the car were 1/3. Whatever door you choose, the chances are the same. After the host opened the door, the odds of picking the door with the car are 50-50. But when Marilyn Vosavant, the most intelligent woman on the planet with an IQ of 228, was asked this question in her Sunday column in 1990, she replied, "Yes, you should switch. The first door has 1/3 chance of winning, but the second door has a 2/3 chance." Her response caused a huge outburst of negative comments. What? Mrs. Vosavant received thousands of angry letters, 90% of which were telling her how wrong she was and how she lacked basic mathematical knowledge. Many of those letters were from mathematicians and PhDs. Marilyn wrote a response to them defending her answer. The winning odds of 1/3 of the first choice can't go up to 1/2. If you are still not persuaded and think that probabilities change after the second door is open, let's just consider all possible scenarios. There are 3 doors, and the car can be behind each one of them with equal possibility. So 3 scenarios are equally likely. The car is behind the first door, the car is behind the second door, and the car is behind the third door. Now let's say there are 2 players. One is a switcher, the one who will switch the door after the door with the goat is open. The other one is a non-switcher, the one who will stick to the first choice. Now let's see what happens in each case. Let's say the car is behind the first door. Both people choose the first door. The host opens either one of the remaining 2 doors. It doesn't matter which one, because there are goats behind both. The switcher will now switch to the other door, and the non-switcher will stick to the first one. In this case, the non-switcher will get the car. Professors 1, Marilyn 0. But let's consider the other 2 scenarios. Now the car is behind the second door. Once again, both players pick the first door. The host opens the third door, the one with the goat. The first player switches his choice and wins, and the second player sticks to the first one and loses. 1-1. The last case is when the car is behind the third door. The players pick the first door. This time the host opens the second door, because the second goat is there. The first player switches to the third door and wins. The second player sticks to the first door and loses. So the non-switching players win only one time, in the scenario when they pick the right door right away, which happens in 1/3 of cases. The switchers lose in only that one scenario, when they pick the right door right away and then give it up later. But they win in the other two scenarios, in both cases when the car is behind one of the other two doors. Mrs. Voussavan suggested another brilliant way to modify the problem to make it even clearer. Imagine that there are not 3 doors, but 1,000,000. The car is behind one of them, and you have to make your choice. Say you pick the first door. Then the host opens all the doors except door number 777,777. All of them had goats, so the car is either behind the door you picked or behind the door number 777,777. Will you switch? Of course you will.
Oh, yeah.
When you picked the door for the first time, the odds to pick the right one were 1 in 1,000,000. Now, when you make another choice between doors 1 and 777,777, your door still has the odds of 1 in 1,000,000, but door number 777,777 has accumulated the odds of all the other doors that were open. The case with 3 doors is the same, but less obvious. But who is this brilliant woman who made a monkey out of most professors across the country? Marilyn Voussavan was born on 11th of August in 1946 in Missouri. She has her mother's last name and, interestingly, savant means a person of learning in French. Marilyn is a descendant of the famous physicist Ernst Mach. She took her first IQ test when she was 10 years old, and she scored 228. Just for comparison, on average, an adult has an IQ of 100. Her parents knew of the girl's exceptional intelligence, but they kept it a secret from the public, so that the girl could live a normal life. The girl's dream was to become a writer. As a teenager, she was writing for local newspapers using pseudonyms. She wanted to become a full-time writer, but to do this, she needed financial security. Young Marilyn dropped out of college after 2 years because she got bored and started to invest. Within 5 years, her investments started to support her enough to let her fully dedicate herself to writing. In 1985, the Guinness Book of World Records obtained Marilyn's IQ scores from the Mega Society, a society of people with 1 in 1,000,000 intelligence scores. They published them, and it made Marilyn Voussavan famous. She received a lot of media attention. A Parade magazine wrote an article about her, and it was so popular that they offered her to write her own column. Of course, Marilyn used this chance. She started the column Ask Marilyn, where she was answering tricky questions, solving riddles, and publishing her own. This is exactly where she gave her famous answer to the Monty Hall problem. But it wasn't the only controversial problem she solved. Here is one more. A shopkeeper said that she has 2 new beagles, but she doesn't know if they're male or female. You only want a male, so she calls a fellow who is bathing them. Turns out that at least one of them is a male. What is the probability that the other one is a male too? I'll give you some time to think. Here is what most people think. There are 3 possible scenarios. The 2 beagles are 2 males, 2 females, or a male and a female. Since one of them is a male, then it's now 2 possible options, 2 males or a pair. Therefore, the probability of 2 males is 1/2. Still, Marilyn Voussavan replied, 1 out of 3. This baffled the audience. But the key is that 2 puppies are different, and it's important to differentiate between them. For example, there is a puppy A and a puppy B. Now, how many combinations are there? Both being females is 1, both being males is 2. Now A is male and B is female, 3. And lastly, A is a female and B is a male, 4. So, there are 3 different cases when at least one is a male. So, when we know that at least one is a male, getting both males has the probability of 1/3. In over 35 years of solving thousands of riddles from her readers, Mrs. Voussaint only made 2 mistakes and she described them in her column. Now Mrs. Voussaint is 76 years old and she's still writing her Ask Marilyn column, so you can even check it out.
That's it for today. So hey, if you pacified your curiosity, then give the video a like and share it with your friends. Or if you want more, just click on these videos and stay on the bright side.